Hello, I'm Deidre. I'm a scheduling coordinator here at Visiting Nurses. Today I'm going to talk to you about the expectations we have of PCA and HHA workers as far as paperwork and HIPAA and that kind of thing. Here at Visiting Nurses, HIPAA, the privacy of our clients, is extremely important. It should be just as important to you as it is to us. So we like to remind you that when you are filling out your paperwork and you have 8 activity reports and timesheets in your possession, they should be in your bag at all times, in your 8 activity bag, in your 8 bag. They shouldn't be folded up in your personal purse or a gym bag. They should be in your visiting nurse's bag, and preferably in a folder. If you don't have a folder, you can ask Melissa or myself or any of the scheduling coordinators to provide one for you. They should not be on your kitchen counter. They shouldn't be on your living room table, and they shouldn't be in the back seat of your car. They need to be either folded or in a folder in your aid supply bag. They also shouldn't be left in your client's home from day to day. They should travel back and forth to your client with you. When you are filling out 8 activity reports and time slips, it is important that they are filled out completely and entirely. In other words, if you turn in an 8 activity report or a time slip and you don't have the dates or times that you provided the service, we'll be unable to process that time slip and 8 activity report until it's fixed. You're responsible for putting the dates you worked, the start time of your visit, the end time of your visit, and then totaling the time for each day, adding it up at the end of the week. It's also important that your client or client representative signs the time slip. It's also important that you sign the time slip. If those time slips and 8 activity reports come in and they aren't complete or correct, you'll receive a call from our payroll department to come in and get it fixed. Remember that payroll is processed on Mondays and Tuesdays, and your time slips and 8 activity reports are due Monday by noon, unless you have an arrangement set up with the accounting department for a special, if you have a special issue. I also want to remind you, if your family members or a friend or someone is bringing your 8 activity reports and your time slips in for you on a Monday, because you can't do that, it's important they be put in an envelope and that the envelope is sealed. Again, that's HIPAA, and we can't have family members bringing in papers that have addresses and names of clients on them. And I also want, as one more reminder for 8 activity reports and time slips, it's important that you not only have your client's first and last name on your 8 activity report and your time slip, but it's also important that you have the address. We may have more than one John Smith that we take care of. And so if you're just writing John Smith without an address, it would be very hard for us to process that. It's important that you write the address where your client was seen as well. The travel sheets, if you're driving in a car and you're driving from client to client, you are entitled to not only the mileage that you're putting on your car, but the time that it takes you to travel. Make sure that you are clear and concise with your travel sheets. We don't pay travel from your home to the first client or from your last client back home unless you've made a special arrangement with scheduling or your supervisor. We do pay travel from client to client, and we'll make arrangements to try and get your clients back to back so you don't have big spaces in between. Your errand transaction sheets should be turned in signed as well. Please keep in mind that if you're doing an errand for a client and your client is giving you cash, it's important that you leave the home after the client signs the top portion of the errand transaction sheet. So if you're leaving the home with $20, the client will sign that transaction sheet saying that you're leaving the home with $20. It's important that gets signed, because a lot of our clients have memory issues, and so if you don't have that signed and they give you a $20 bill and then you get back after the errand and they think you've given they've given you a $50 bill, it can lead to issues. So just make sure that that's signed at all times. Don't forget as well, if you're doing a client errand that doesn't require the handling of money, that you still turn one of those in. If you went and picked up medicines or something at the store and there was no money that switched hands, we still need an errand transaction sheet to let us know where you were, what errands you were doing during the visit. Supplies can be found in the front office where reception is, and there's also a supply cabinet in our office, in the scheduling office. It's important that you keep all your supplies in your supply bag and stocked up at all times. As you know, the nurses may be stopping to do supervisory visits from time to time, either with your client or yourself. So it's important that you have your identification badge on you at all times. If your ID badge has expired, it's important you come into the office and get a new one. If you've gotten a flu shot since the last time you turned in your last flu shot, you have to come in and get that added to your bonus, to your badge, so that we know that your flu shot is updated and that kind of thing. You should always have gloves. You should have boot covers. You should have aprons. You should have flu masks. You should have gloves and paper towels. You should have an empty peri bottle, and you should have a full peri bottle with soap. It's important that you have all of these things in your bag. You should also have an 8 activity report and a timesheet of each kind. So if you aren't working on an NHTD case, you should still have NHTD paperwork in your bag, because you never know when one of the schedulers will have to send you to a different case. So make sure that you have all of the paperwork you need at all times. If you're having trouble getting into the office to pick up paperwork, we can always send some to you in the mail. Please keep in mind that time off requests need to be turned in 2 weeks in advance. I know that our time off request form says 3, but we're generally pretty fair, and we'd like you to give us 2 weeks notice. If your child is going to have kindergarten graduation coming up, please don't let us know 3 days before. They give you the kindergarten schedule at the beginning of the school year, so you should be able to let us know if you need that time off. If you have a court date coming up, we need that as well. We do know that from time to time families have emergencies and children get sick and that kind of thing. That's understandable, but when you need time off and you know you need time off, it's important you let us know in writing. We don't take any verbal time off requests, so please don't call the office and say, hey, I need 3 Thursdays from now off, because we won't process it for you. It has to be in writing, and it has to come into the office. If you're looking to come off of any of your cases, it's just maybe you're changing your availability, or you're just not happy on that case anymore, not for any reason that puts you in danger, or just maybe it's not for you anymore. It's important that you also fill out paperwork for us. It's called 2-week notice to be removed from case, and that is also in your paperwork in your aid cabinet. We just remind you that although you might give us 2-week notice to come off that case, if we can find an aid in less than 2 weeks, we're going to pull you off that case and put the new aid in place. So please don't count on being on a case for 2 weeks if you've given us your 2 weeks notice to come off. However, if after 2 weeks we aren't able to find an aid for that case, that doesn't mean that you have to stay on it. We'll certainly honor your request to come off that case. If you're resigning from visiting nurses altogether, maybe you're going to move out of the area, or maybe you're going to pursue other interests or go back to college. It's important that you resign properly with grace. So you would want to fill out a 2-week notice that you're not going to work for visiting nurses. Give us the last day that you're planning to work for us. And what that does is ensure that when you want to return to visiting nurses, we let you come back with the same grace that you left. If you just stop going to cases and you don't return and you don't call us back and you're no call, no show, we won't be able to hire you back. So how you leave visiting nurses is often important to how you re-enter visiting nurses. If your availability changes and you are no longer available the same hours you used to be, it's important that you fill that out as well. When Melissa and I or any of the schedulers are looking to schedule fill-ins for someone who's called out or something, we generally go through your availability. So if you have told us you're available from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, we're certainly not going to call you for a 8 o'clock a.m. case, because according to your availability, you're not available. If you'd like to change your availability, there are forms for that. Come in the office, fill it out. Give us a call, maybe even if you can't get to the office, and let us know what your new availability is. If you're looking for any information to be supplied to the Department of Social Services maybe for childcare. If you're looking to go to another agency and pick up a second job and you need a copy of your PPD, you will need to fill out what's called a request for information, and that is also in your aid supply cabinet. You'll fill that out. It takes 7 to 10 business days to process. If you're having an emergency and you really need it processed immediately, it's important that you let Human Resources know that it's important to you to get that done, and they'll try to speed up that process for you. Please keep in mind that PCAs need 6 hours of in-service each year, and HHAs need 12 hours of in-service each year. You're responsible for keeping track of how many in-services that you've completed and how many hours that you still need. We have a complete list of in-service offerings always in our office. We send them out a couple times a month as well. And if you need time off from another job that you're working, it's important that you look at those in-service hours maybe 1 or 2 or 3 months in advance so that you can get your in-service hours in. You have to give us 2 weeks to let us know you want to come to an in-service. If the in-service is on a Tuesday, you can't call Monday and ask if you can come to the in-service if that in-service is during one of your visits to your clients. We need 2 weeks to try and find a fill-in aid for your client while you're going to come in for that in-service. There's a clipboard in the office that allows you to sign up for those in-services. Please make sure you sign in to the clipboard if you want to attend, or you let one of us know that you'd like to attend, and we'll put your name on that list. Oftentimes, space is limited, so it's important that you don't just show up, that you let us know you're coming. Visiting nurses holidays. Please keep in mind that we send out a comprehensive list of holidays. All holidays that are governmental are not visiting nurses holidays. So it's important that you keep track of that list of your holidays. If you don't know if your client receives holiday service, it's important that you call the scheduler. And you should call the scheduler a couple of weeks in advance. I wouldn't wait until the holiday morning and call on Christmas morning and say, am I supposed to see my client? That's probably not the best idea. So you're going to want to, in advance, either look at the schedule that comes out in the mail, or you're going to want to call the office to ask. And that's another thing I'd like to remind you is that even if you receive direct deposit and you don't necessarily need to open the envelopes that your paycheck or your pay stub is coming in, it's important that you open those envelopes, because that's how we're going to communicate with you. And so we need you to open those so that you can see your schedule and you can look at your schedule, and if there's any deviation, if there's any change to your schedule and something doesn't look right, you can call the office and ask. It's a great way to know if your client's going to receive services or not as well on a holiday. Visiting nurses holiday pay is time and a half. So if the 4th of July is a holiday and you're scheduled to work, if you don't ask for the day off, we're going to assume that you're going to work. That's going to be the assumption, and you will receive time and a half holiday pay for all visiting nurses holidays. Occasionally, the schedulers will offer you a shift bonus if you're going to do a special shift for us. Maybe if we are having trouble filling a shift or we have an emergency. I have had aides call me and say, listen, I'd like to work Saturday, but only if you can give me a shift bonus. Please be assured we would have already offered you a shift bonus if we could. We can't offer shift bonuses for all of our visits that we can't fill. There are certain requirements that have to be met by the schedulers in order to offer a shift bonus. So if we can offer you a shift bonus, we sure will. And what a shift bonus is that between 4 and 7 hours that we need filled, that we can't fill and are having trouble filling, you'll receive $10 bonus in your paycheck. That doesn't mean $10 an hour. That means just a $10 drop dropped into your paycheck. If you work an 8 to 10 hour shift for us, we can offer you a 12-hour shift bonus, and if you work 12 plus hours, 8 to 12, you'll receive $10, and then you'll receive a $14 shift bonus if it's a 12-hour plus shift, and we'll certainly let you know when we can offer that. Let's see, there's a 30-day shift policy here at Visiting Nurses, so if you don't have any permanent work, it's important that you call the office and you pick up work every 30 days. Occasionally you'll get a reminder that says, hey, it's getting close to 30 days, you need to start picking up shift work. That's a favor that we do